big bear welcome.
So while Taylor is grabbing the lights so that you can see the PowerPoint, I just want to say a great big thank you to Taylor and to all of you guys for allowing me to come here today and to tell your story. Taylor did hear me speak in Bertha at one of the area churches last spring, so she has a little preview to what I'll be talking about today. But there'll be more. And then just for the girls in the audience here, if you like what you hear, I will be at Women's Day out on November 1st. But that's not the cool news. The cool news is so is Kat Perkins from The Voice and Miss America 2013. So if you want to come try on her crown, come hang out, come join me in November. So anyways, I am pleased to be here. I know a few of you, Taylor, obviously. Chastity, congratulations. Jordan, congratulations. Megan and Madison, so thank you for, some of you guys already know this story and some of you may not. And for those of you who don't know me, I hope that when we're done you have a little glimpse into who I am, into the journey I've been on. And then I also hope that at the same time, maybe you find out a little bit more about yourself. So who am I? This is my family. The Lawrence family. I grew up in Wadena on Oink Joint Road. So I don't know if on Highway 10 you've seen that sign, Oink Joint Road. That road was named when I was the age of some of you guys, 7th grade. Until then, it was just a dirt road. That's pretty good for your self-esteem. Changing it to Oink Joint Road when you're a 7th grader, that's a little rocky. But now I've come to love it and endure it. I was a Wadena Indian actually most of my career. And it wasn't until I was a senior in high school that we changed to become the Wadena Deer Creek Wolverines. So I can kind of have ties to both. I then went off to college in St. Paul, and I graduated from the University of St. Thomas with a journalism degree and a business degree. And then from there, I moved down to New Ulm. So I don't know if you know where New Ulm is, but it's about 3 hours from here near Mankato. So I worked at the New Ulm Public Schools. I was the person that got to help share the stories of the good things that the teachers were doing, the staff was doing, and all the fun that the kids were having. I got to share those stories with the public. And then I moved over to work in Mankato at Mayo Clinic. It was Mayo Health System. So I did that for a long time. Then I got married, started having kids, and moved back to Wadena into this area when my second child, Katie Ray, was just 4 weeks old. So a very crazy time to be moving. Now, I'm the mother of 3 beautiful girls, Jane, Katie Ray, and Anna. And Katie Ray and Anna are sitting here in the front row with Taylor and Madison. And now I work at Tri-County in Wadena. Okay, is there a way to turn the other light off too? You might not be able to see me, but it'd be nice to see this. Thanks, Taylor. Maybe in life you've heard this before. Life is 10% what happens to you, and 90% how you respond to it. That's good, Taylor, thanks. But then again, we'll just have to deal, thank you. Okay, so then there's this 10% in your life that you guys can't do anything about. None of us can do anything about. But then there's this other 90% that's totally and completely up to you. You get to decide. And maybe in that 10%, there's a whole lot of crap going on, and a whole lot of ickiness. But that 90%, that's totally up to you. If we get caught up in the negative events of our life, most of our stories, guys, they're gonna be very depressing. And so when life is difficult or challenging, or should I say especially when your life is difficult and challenging, it's an opportunity for us to grow, learn, and be a little bit better than we were yesterday. Right now, we are all in the process of telling our own story. We're in the process of writing it. And if you think about it, no good story is a good story without a hero overcoming their fair set of challenges. I mean, wouldn't it be boring to read a book that had no hero or no challenges, or watch a movie with the same outcome? So we need to quit telling ourselves, myself included, that a great life always goes perfectly. Because really, a great life is one in which we dare greatly, we do great things, we make others happy, we're willing to get in the game and try things, we make mistakes, but guess what? We get back up again, and we give it our best shot. Because guys, we are the author of our own story. And each day, we have the privilege to decide what the next page of our wonderful adventure is going to say. We have the privilege to make today the best day of our life. So you may have heard this before. Life is written in chapters, and I can't tell you all of the chapters in my life, but I can tell you the one that changed my entire story. In August of 2011, I was plunged into an existence that I never knew was possible. One where bald children seemed to be more normal than those with hair, where my child laid in a hospital bed while other kids were out playing in the sun, and where my daughter hurt so much she couldn't even cry. And sadly, I learned that we live in a world where sometimes children even die. Some of you had the privilege of knowing Jane. This is a picture, beautiful picture that I saw on Facebook the other day. And if you can't see it, there is Madison and Jane in that picture. So some of you had that privilege. Taylor was even a pen pal, but sadly Jane was really sick and was unable to communicate back with her. But she loved it, just so you know. Jane, she had this beautiful spirit and she radiated. It made you feel like you knew her, even if you didn't. She was kind, sweet, brave, and loving. She really was a true warrior princess in every sense of the word. Jane was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. It's a long word to say, basically leukemia. She was diagnosed with this cancer at the age of 7, when she was just a second grader at Wadena Deer Creek Schools. So when it first just kind of appeared like she maybe had Lyme disease, that's what we thought, within weeks was confirmed as the dreaded C word, cancer. And on September 6, 2012, Jane earned her angel's wings just 13 months after her diagnosis, and just weeks before she turned 9. And despite having the odds against her, Jane never gave up. She was brave, and she will always be my hero. She was a true gift to this world, and one that I am proud to be called her mom. Guys, cancer is icky, and we probably all know somebody whose life has been changed forever because of it. And this is why things that you guys can do, why that's so very important. For those of you who may have come to Wadena for the Princess Warrior 5K, or maybe for those of you who will leave this room and tell just one person this story, you're helping to raise awareness about a very icky disease. And this month is actually Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, as well as Leukemia Awareness Month. So even if you just tell one person that message, you are helping to raise awareness. With the raise, we try to raise money because we give away scholarships. We give Christmas gifts to families, to the siblings and to the parents of cancer victims and survivors. We're giving iPads to the hospital. So if you come into Ready Care or you come into the emergency room to have something to do, hopefully soon there'll be iPads there. And then we give money to Cure Search or the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Because we hope that eventually that money will help find a cure for cancer, because that was Jane's dream. But maybe it might pay the wages of the janitor who keeps the space clean so that the scientist and doctor can work. Or maybe by doing something nice and doing something that you can pay forward, someone down the road from that domino effect of kindness, maybe they decide and can help find a cure. Guys, we don't know the impact we have daily, but by telling Jane's story, and by talking about childhood cancer, and by raising awareness, we are all doing our part to help Jane's dream of finding a cure for cancer come true. You guys, we just don't know. So think about it. If you have this idea, so maybe you're not the homecoming queen, or maybe you're not the student council president, but maybe you have an idea. And that idea sparks a conversation, and that conversation sparks a Facebook post, and in this world, maybe that Facebook post gets shared, because you know it does, and maybe that sharing of that Facebook post leads to inspiration for somebody to do something really big. So sometimes that idea, or that conversation, you just never know, especially in today's social media world, the ripple effect that that can have. Talking about all of this is hard. And looking at these beautiful girls, and one of the last pictures of all of us together, that's hard. But I'm going to tell you today that crying is okay. I do it often. And if you're going to ask me about Jane, that's a good thing. Or if you're going to ask somebody else about someone they lost, pay attention, but generally that's a good thing. Because we don't get to tell our stories anymore. And if we cry, those are the warm tears. To me, those are the memories that come down my cheeks. And they help in my healing. They're a tangible symbol of grace, love, and the memories of Jane in heaven. So please, don't be afraid to cry. And you guys may not know this, but my beautiful little girl, one of her biggest fears, I don't even think so much that she was afraid to die. She was afraid that people would forget her. And she was very brave. This is right after she had brain surgery. So she has 2 big scars on her head. Very brave. And you can see she's smiling in here. And one of the rules we had in the hospital room is no matter how crappy and how icky you're feeling, it's never an excuse to be rude. She didn't need to, she wouldn't have the energy to go and be like eager, hey, how are ya? But she did have the energy to just acknowledge. And she always had the energy to be kind. And so that's a message that I would share from Jane to all of you, that even in her ickiest days, she was never rude. Like other kids, and like maybe you guys, Jane was scared and vulnerable at times. Most of the days like this, she hid it pretty well. However, there was one day in particular where her anxiety leaked through a little bit. We were participating in an art therapy experience at Children's Hospital, and that's where Jane was hospitalized in Minneapolis. Until that day, I thought art was just art. I didn't really expect to see therapy in art therapy until I witnessed it for myself. So I want you to picture this. Jane sitting at a table with some clay, a box, and some feathers. And from this, she started to tell a story. Now, Jane had no intention, she was a little bit stubborn, she had no intention of telling the story by herself. So instead, like a journalist, I would ask her questions and she would answer back. And she would continue to fill in the blanks until the story unfolded itself. What Jane created was this beautiful park scene. It had a bench, beautiful flowers, a tree, a pond, and stunning colored scarves and clothing. It was this beautiful scene with one little girl sitting on a bench and another person sitting back in the box. We talked about the colors and the scenes that she had created. And then all of a sudden, she took her arm and she wiped it all away. She took and just got rid of this whole beautiful masterpiece she was creating. There were no more flowers, no more beautiful pond, and no more park. It was all gone. I didn't know what to think. We went back to the room, processed this a little bit, and luckily at Children's Hospital, they have what they call child life specialists. And these are trained staff who help go through these processes and also are there to help make the experience a little bit more fun for the kids. She and I concluded that all of this was because Jane was afraid that no one would remember the beautiful park that existed while she sat on the bench of life. My beautiful little girl, and a friend to some of you, she was afraid that when she died, no one would remember her after she left the world. From this art therapy session, we started to have what we call legacy conversations. And legacy is how do we remember people after they've moved on? And very quickly, I learned that my role as her mom, it was to reassure her that we wouldn't forget her. And that people, kids like you guys, you would help remember her long after she's in heaven. My baby was afraid of being forgotten, and I had no idea what to do. So under the advice of a friend, I did what he said. And he said, let her lead. So I let her lead us through this process. And with Jane's guidance, we created a legacy plan. Up on the big board in the hospital, if you've ever been in a hospital room, they have like this whiteboard that you can write on. So we just started scribbling notes of everything she wanted. So some of you might recognize, is the Princess Warrior 5K run, walk, roll, stroller, crawl. And if any of you have heard that crazy name and wonder why, it is a run, walk, roll, stroll, or crawl because Jane wanted to make sure that everybody, no matter what their ability or what their age or just what their even interest in running a 5K was, everyone could participate. There'd be a plaque there, but that was just for each other, everyone's own personal choice. She also created, up until the day before she died, duct tape wallets. So maybe some of you have seen these duct tape wallets. They've been shipped across the nation. And this started what became Jane's initial donation. It started a $13,316 donation to Cure Search. And that's an organization that helps families and helps raise awareness and is searching for that cure for cancer. And before Jane died, she alone raised $2,100.16 as part of her legacy to this world. And the background to this was all Jane's idea. We sat on a hospital bed and we talked. She told me what she wanted this race to look like. She wanted it at Tapley Park because that's where she played. She wanted apple pie. So we did that the first year, but we haven't come back, so we need to bring back the apple pie. And she always wanted me to start the race. So at the beginning of every race, I stand up and I say, on your mark, get set, go, as Jane's legacy to the race. So after that conversation, a couple days go by and life resumes what we began as our new normal at the hospital. Then we got the news that she would be going home for the last time. So a couple days later, we ended up going home, but before the ambulance could leave Children's to bring Jane home to hospice, she had some work to do. She had a few duct tape wallets to make and one last painting to draw. The art room, this is where we had the previous art experience, was also the location of another one of the most difficult and yet most beautiful days of my life. This is a picture of Jane the day before she died. Art was Jane's passion. She was an artist in her soul, and when we knew that she would be leaving for the ambulance the last time, several things happened. Jane, being Jane, and being a little stubborn about what she was going to do, was not going to go home until she had one last trip to the art room. Her work wasn't done, and the ambulance crew would just have to wait. And it did. Jane's oncologist, which is a fancy word for cancer doctor, told the paramedics that Jane had work to do and that the ambulance could drive her home as soon as her work was done. So with her oxygen tank in hand, we entered the art room for one last time. We went in, she sat at the table, and created her last masterpiece. A masterpiece that still hangs in my office today so that I can see it each and every day. It is a 4x6 painting, so it's about the size of a postcard. It has a blue background, a sunrise at the top, and two red flowers front and center. One opening up as it is to heaven, and the other one drooping down like it's crying. And before she was done, Jane asked for a little white slip of paper, kind of about 2 by 2, 2 inches by 2 inches, and unprompted and unscripted wrote the words, Jane's last art project. And she dated it 9/5/12, the day before she died. This is her painting. As she was doing this, I remember looking up at the child life specialist, and none of us said a word, but yet we said everything. This is when I knew that being a mom, being a friend, being a brother, being a sister, it's not just being there to make the macaroni and cheese, help with the homework, to rock them to sleep at night, to go to the movies. Being a mom or a very special person in someone's life, it's about loving, protecting, and being honest with your child and your friends, even in the ickiest situations, and even in the dawn of death. I am so proud of my baby that even in her sickest days, she thought of others. I'm so proud that she raised $2,100.16 to help find a cure for childhood cancer. And some of you might be thinking, 16 cents, who cares? Why 16 cents? And it's because Jane didn't charge for her duct tape wallets. She believed that people should donate whatever was comfortable to them. And likely, someone gave all of the change in their pocket, their last 16 cents. And until Jane's dying day, she was a little girl who wanted to do big things. She lived her life, and that's what I want you guys to leave here remembering. Live your life. The night before she died, she did what most 8-year-old girls want to do, a slumber party. Jane and a few of her friends shared popcorn, with Jane's favorite seasoning, of course, ranch, drank juice boxes, and watched a movie. Jane fell peacefully asleep with her friends surrounding her while they watched the movie. That was the last time she slept peacefully. And it's a good feeling to know that my daughter's strength, courage, bravery, and selflessness was admired by many. It's a good feeling to know that even in her death, it can teach us all to be better people and how to live more Jane-like. And I'm not gonna lie to you, it was really hard to let Jane go. And this by far has been the hardest chapter in my life. Jane was ready, but I wasn't. And after she died, I laid beside her for 2 hours, just holding her and crying. It wasn't fair. Life isn't fair. Why should someone as beautiful as her leave her mommy, her daddy, her sisters, her family, and her friends? But her body was tired, and now I have to believe she's at peace. So how do we get through the tough days of our lives? Guys, how do we get through them? We all have them. We have fights with our families, we have a bad day at school, kids are picking on us, and children are dying. We all have tough days. One thing you can do is place people in your path that you love and trust and need. Because the truth is, guys, we're not meant to live this life alone. We're not a one-person show. We must have a support team. Because warriors, when they're out fighting, they seldom fight alone. There's power in numbers, and you don't have to face all this tough stuff, all this hard stuff by yourself. For me, I have many friends. One of them is a mentor. And if any of you don't know what a mentor is someone who lives and models a great life, but on top of that, they want you to live that great life too. My mentor shared with me a common problem with people, especially girls. You may recognize this in yourself, but when things are going well, and when things are just wonderful in our life, we're all chatty. We like to talk. We talk and we share, we talk and we share. But when things aren't going very well, we hide. When that tough stuff is hiding, we find our foxhole and we hide in it. I do that. So how do we build our army? Well, one, choose the people around you that make you better. Choose the people who will encourage you on your tough days and celebrate with you on your good days. Choose people who have your back and always want you to be a better version of yourself today than you were yesterday. Choose someone who won't show up for that pity party you invite them to and will call you out on your excuses. Choose someone that will let you wallow in those bad days, but not for very long. Choose a fellow warrior that won't allow you to stay in an icky place for a long time. Bad stuff, we all know, it happens to each one of us. None of us is immune to that. You guys just heard my story. And I believe that one of the keys to living the best life you possibly can and making today better than yesterday is to just handle this bad stuff a little bit better. Each time, just try to handle it a little bit better. Because regardless of how things look on the outside, pretty sure that generally there is something icky going on the inside for each one of us. Maybe it's stress about homework, maybe it's a fight with your brother and sister, or maybe it's something bigger. And guys, we can be pitiful or we can be powerful, but we can't be both. We are not meant to be victims in life. I'm a self-proclaimed, qualified, bad stuff talker. I've been through the bad stuff, and I talk about it. You've heard my bad stuff story, and I had a choice. I could be pitiful, or I could be powerful. I could be a victim, or I could be a survivor. 10% or 90%. I got to choose. And guess what? I have a ridiculously good life. And just because that bad stuff happened, that really, really bad stuff happened, doesn't mean I'm going to forget about it. But it's also not an excuse for not living a ridiculously good life. And despite the hand that you guys been dealt, or the hard stuff that you're going through, there is always a way to make the 90% worth living and loving. And I'm going to guess that we all want to be in the season of dancing. But you know, we can't get to that season of dancing and we can't appreciate it if we don't go through a season of mourning or hard times. You can't get through spring without winter. Really, it's been true since the beginning of time. But we all know that winter will not last forever. And you can't get rid of January just by ripping it off the calendar. I know, I tried. It doesn't work. January is still here. You can't get rid of the seasons of bad stuff in your life just by going through them or trying to rush through them. Bad stuff happens, but like a season, this too shall pass. There's a purpose in every season and always hope in the future. If you're feeling overwhelmed in life, remember it's only a season of life and not a life sentence. So I'm going to trust here right now, because I know you've been sitting for a while, so I'm going to trust that when I'm in Bertha, that you kids can play a game and you can follow some simple rules. Easy rules. No talking, and just don't touch your neighbor, or touch anybody for that matter. I'm going to have you stand up if this is true. If you can stand up, or you can raise your hand if you can't stand up. And it's a game called Have You Ever? Okay? So again, the rules are simple. No talking, keep your hands to yourself, or stand up or raise your hand if you've ever gone hunting. How many of you have gone hunting? So, as I read the next one, you can continue standing or sit down, but stand if you've ever made chocolate chip cookies. Kind of be looking around right now. Look who's standing. Have you ever made a silly mistake? Have you ever cried? Have you ever laughed so hard you cried? Okay, trick question. Okay, ready? Have you ever thought that Jill was the most cool adult in the room? Okay, you guys are way better than Medina Dairy kids because you all stayed standing. Thank you. Have you ever thought about what you want to be when you grow up? Have you ever done something nice for someone who couldn't repay you? Have you ever made someone cry, but it was a good thing? Okay, you can sit down, but make sure you kind of look around and see people who are standing. So as you guys get older and you start to go on interviews, you will prepare for certain questions. One question that I always prepare for is, what is your greatest accomplishment? Before having children, this was mine. My greatest accomplishment was making high school letter-winning boys, varsity wrestlers, cry. That's right, that was my greatest achievement, was making wrestlers cry. But it was a good thing. I didn't get on the mat and grapple with them. But I did make a video, and I made a video because that was my talent. I used my talent to memorialize their success. I was telling their story so that they could listen. I listened to their story. I knew it was important because that's the year they went to state. And I did something to tell them that I heard their story and it was awesome, and that brought them to tears. We're going to play this Have You Ever game again, but I want you just to stay sitting, close your eyes, and just answer these questions in your head and your heart. Have you ever wished someone knew you just a little bit better? Have you ever wished that a teacher was knowing you tried the very hardest you could? Have you ever tried, or have you ever known that you haven't tried as hard as you could? Have you ever cried yourself to sleep? Have you ever told someone how important they were to you? Have you ever looked in the mirror and realized just how beautiful you are? Okay, you guys can open your eyes. I want you to think about those questions. And I'm going to guess that your classmates sitting around you